Dark Skies is out this week. This is actually come out on Wednesday. This is from the producer of Paranormal Activity. This has a certain amount in common with that movie. Although it's not shot in the found footage, the CCTV style, it is about a family in their home being tormented by a strange presence. This time, though, it's not so much paranormal as extraterrestrial. Kerry Russell and Josh Hamilton star. They're wondering if the strange things happening in their house are actually just their kids playing tricks.
Look, we know things have been a little strained around here lately.
And when that happens, that can create feelings towards us that,
It's about the photos, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Did either of you take them?
We were sleeping. How could we take them?
Sam, did you have that dream again? About the Sandman?
Ooh, what dream?
Sammy, did the Sandman take the photos? It's okay, you can tell us.
I can't.
What's going on, Lise?
What do you mean you can't?
He told me not to say.
The quavering child's voice.
Which is a classic ingredient of horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
There are, unfortunately, perhaps a few too many classic ingredients in this film, to the point where they're actually cliches. It's funny, because last time I was on, I was reviewing the film Mama, starring Jessica Chastain, another horror film, and I talked about kids doing scary crayon drawings, how that crops up in a lot of horror films.
Check.
Yes, they're in this one. I think we could probably have an amnesty on that now, don't you think? I mean, there's been some amazing ones, but we've probably seen it enough times now. And actually, in Dark Skies, there are just things we have seen 100 times before. I liked the wise old paranormal expert who sort of turns up about halfway through.
Without doubt, the best thing about the whole film, I think. And he's only in it for a very short time.
But that's, again, another sort of cliche of horror films. Someone who comes in, a wise old sage, warns the lead couple about what they're getting themselves into. And actually, there's a fairly large chunk of Close Encounters of the Third Kind in there as well. However, having said all of that, I think it could be a lot worse. Some good performances. Kerry Russell, I think, is really likeable on screen. A couple of good scares in there too. Mm-hmm. Birds on windows, pretty scary.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the adverts, we didn't know about that. That does come as one hell of a shock when it happens.
Even though it doesn't really amount to much, there are several unanswered questions. It does actually feel like a film that doesn't really want us in the audience to ask too many questions and to probe too deeply, because it probably doesn't have the answers. Despite all of that, it's solid, it's serviceable, it's watchable. Like I said, Jason Blum, the guy who did Paranormal Activity, produces this. He also produced last year's Sinister with Ethan Hawke. Year before that, Insidious with Rose Byrne. Big horror films, actually, very successful horror films. Insidious has got a sequel coming out. This isn't as sharp as those. I doubt you'll be seeing a sequel. I doubt it will do the business that those did.
Except when they made this, surely that's what they had in mind.
That is exactly
Dark
what they had in
Skies
mind.
2 is probably written somewhere. I'm just waiting for this to be a success, possibly.
They wanted it to be along the lines of those films, but they've just missed the mark, I think, this time round.
I came to this as someone who loves science fiction, really big fan of it. And also, you know, gets frightened fairly easily. So I will avoid anything that kind of scares me. Like horror movies, I do not particularly want to go and see. So I started watching this and I thought, oh, this is, you know, I'm going to literally be hiding in my chair and really not able to watch the screen. But it wasn't scary enough to frighten me, which I think is not a good thing at all.
Well, no, I think because, you know, it's as we said, I think the scares that are there, and you can tick them off, there are a lot of them, but on the whole, they're ones we sort of know already. They're not doing anything particularly new or original. And, you know, there is a fair amount of pleasure to be had if you love horror movies. If you love any kind of genre, sometimes you just like watching something that is very generic, so you can just enjoy ticking those boxes and watching things unfold. But there's nothing particularly new in this. But, you know, it reminded me that I do really like Kerry Russell. She was in a TV show, Felicity, wasn't she, back in the day? That was kind of made her name, and Mission Impossible 3. And I don't know whether she's ever going to be a massive, really famous leading lady, but she does have a real presence about her.
She's enjoyable to watch on screen, definitely.
When we saw it, there was, because you were in the same screening as me, weren't you? But we weren't sat together, not because we can't sit together, but because we just arrived at different times. But there was a scream that came up from the audience about a quarter of an hour in. And I thought, yep, Joe's here.
Riley's
That's
been crying.
Riley. But actually, it wasn't you, was
no,
it?
it was a lady next to me. I actually thought she'd got a newborn baby with her. I thought someone's brought a baby into the screening and it started crying. But no, it was a lady who was obviously way more frightened than I was.
So
Yeah.
I think...
What do you think of the adolescent boy in it as well? He's, what, 13?
Yeah, and I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a scene where he's on his bike and he's cycling along, which is so E.T.
Yeah.
Just like, he's got the rally
bit Donnie
bike.
Darko, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you'll have seen a lot of it before, but having said all that, it could be a lot worse.
Okay, so an enjoyable way to spend or to pass.
Fairly enjoyable way.
Okay, all right. So would you recommend it then for people to go see?
I think if you're a horror fan, if you're a horror film completist, then you'll know about it and you'll probably have seen it already because it came out on Wednesday.